Hi everyone, my name is Sierra Cleveland, and this summer Paige Barnes and I researched anticipatory behavior in male western lowland gorillas. So what is anticipatory behavior and why does it happen? In a sense, it's like classical conditioning where animals learn to associate sounds like the keeper's keys with certain events like feeding or nightly recall. Since animals have no control over these events, they rely on these external cues and their internal clocks to predict when these events will happen. So why does their behavior change? Well, anticipatory behaviors function to promote successful responses to environmental change. So in the wild, resources are unpredictable and animals have to perform a series of behaviors like traveling, foraging, or fighting for food in order to increase the probability of their success and survival. But in captivity, these instincts carry over, meaning that when they hear the keys jingling, they change their behavior because they think that their actions will increase the probability of the reward. So these are natural responses to the predictability of these routines, but in many species, this anticipatory behavior can take the form of higher activity levels, as well as more aggression, stereotypic, and self-directed behaviors, which are not really behaviors that we want to see. So I want to introduce you to two cases of undesirable behavior that we've seen in the gorillas at the safari park and the zoo that we suspect possibly might be anticipatory behaviors. And so this is Mandazi. He's part of the bachelor troupe at the zoo, the rest of which I'll introduce in a minute, and he spends a lot of time in the area near the back bedroom doors. As you can see here, he charges the back bedroom doors quite often, and he spends a lot of time looking underneath the doors to see what he can find. And here's Monroe. He spends a lot of time pulling out his hair by the caves where the back bedroom doors are. He has pretty bad hair loss, as you can see here, and here's what it looks like when he pulls his hair out. He'll do this several times in a row, and he typically consumes each hair after he pulls it out. So in our study, we wanted to look at these undesirable behaviors and see if they were influenced by anticipation of nightly recall. We also wanted to see whether anticipation affected proximity to other gorillas and spatial selectivity. That is, where the animal chooses to spend its time. So we had 5 focal males in our study. Monroe, who I mentioned before, does the hair pulling, and Frank. They're both in a breeding troop of 8 gorillas at the safari park. And then Mandazi, who charges the bedroom doors. He's in a bachelor troop at the zoo with his 2 brothers, AAPA and Maka. And we use the Behavioral Observation Research Interactive Software, aka Boris, to record data electronically on our tablets. We did 30-minute observations at each time of day over a period of 6 weeks, totaling 124.5 hours of observation. So we found that Monroe, Maka, and Mandazi all exhibited an increase in self-directed behaviors. This graph shows Monroe's change in rate of self-grooming and frequency of hair pulling against the time of day. As you can see, both behaviors increased prior to being let inside. We also found that Frank, Maka, and Mandazi all showed spatial selectivity changes throughout the day. Mandazi spends more time in the area near the back bedroom doors as the day progresses. AAPA showed an increase in his frequency of aggressive events over time. So from previous research that has associated these types of behaviors with anticipation, and our findings that demonstrate a correlation between these behaviors and time, it's likely that these gorillas are in fact exhibiting anticipatory behavior. So if these behaviors are associated with anticipation, what are the implications for welfare? If these animals are already conditioned to associate the occasional sound of keys or footsteps with nightly recall or food, then why not give them a more consistent and reliable cue to depend on? Animals have no control over these situations, so it's more stressful when they don't know when it's coming. If keepers are able to clearly communicate to the animal when to expect what, then they'll be able to relax in times when they don't hear the cue, and they'll spend less time wondering and anticipating when the next food toss or their nightly recall will be. Thanks for listening, and I hope you all stop by our poster to learn more about our project.